Sorry, Suresh, just to interrupt you. Just got to make an announcement about next year's conference. To make that announcement, I'm going to ask Dr. Wafi to step forward.
All right.
Okay, just a second.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dr. Robert. Basically, we'll be honored in Dubai to host next year's conference, inshallah. We're looking at different avenues, I would say, around Dubai. A suggestion is we might, as Dubai Quality Group, host it either in Dubai or it could be in Qatar as well. Qatar is a World Cup is there, 2022. So we might, Dubai Quality Group, host it in Qatar or in Dubai. We're still looking at it. I must say we'll be very honored to have all of you with us in Dubai. And my apologies for saying that now, not at the end as usual, because I'm basically flying now. Thank you.
Okay, give a round of applause.
We're about to commence the final session of the conference, and our focus is going to be on benchmarking 2030. It's appropriate to reflect back on the year 2000. We all enter the next millennium with great hope. And these 10 years have challenged a lot of assumptions that businesses have conducted themselves. The earliest of which was terror. We experienced terror in the early part of this decade. We experienced volatility in the price of commodities as never before. We experienced a recession that has dragged the globe virtually into the pits. And we've seen climate change as never before. And more recently, we had the WikiLeaks. These are all assumptions we worked with in the past. We never dreamt that climate would be a threat to us, terror would be a threat, etc., etc. So it's an appropriate time for us to reflect on what our assumptions should be for the next decade or two. And what should the role of benchmarking be, if at all any role, in these 2 decades? To do this search, we've organized a roundtable. Our roundtable basically is a group of intelligent people with a common focus, wanting to know what is the future of benchmarking in 2030. This roundtable is supported by a considerable amount of research done by the DPM, surveys done by DPM, and the entire project has been led by Mr. Bruce Service of Benchmarking Partnerships Australia. May I now request Bruce to take over.
Thank you, Suresh, and welcome everyone.
So the agenda for this session is as shown on the screen. Suresh mentioned that there's been already considerable research done by the Global Benchmarking Network, and various members of the Global Benchmarking Network will be giving a presentation on some of that research and also their own views. I think you'll find the research also interesting in terms of your own strategic planning, because to look at benchmarking up until 2030, we've had to look at the global megatrends that will affect society and industry generally. So there'll be a useful benchmarking in terms of global megatrends as well in our discussion this afternoon. My job as leader of the project team, which also consists of Dr. Robert Mann and Dr. Holger Cole, is to give you a status report where we are at now with respect to the Benchmarking 2030 project. And to do that, the agenda for my brief presentation will be why did the Global Benchmarking Network embark on this project? How was the project being undertaken? The findings so far, and then at the end of the discussion, which we will have with the audience, what we call a roundtable discussion, I will give a brief conclusion and address the next steps. This slide shows the aim of the project. You can see I'm looking backwards in terms of the 35mm slides, part of my heritage rather than PowerPoint. So what will benchmarking look like in 2030? And what will be the tools and methodologies that will be used for benchmarking? And that is if benchmarking will be done at all up until 2030. And then how should the Global Benchmarking Network, being the peak body globally for benchmarking in the world, how should the Global Benchmarking Network respond? And during the various presentations before the actual discussion, I'd like you to think about three basic questions. One is, does benchmarking have a future? Whether there will or will not be benchmarking in the future. The second question is, if there is benchmarking in the future, what topics will be useful for benchmarking? What will be the important topics or subjects of benchmarking? And thirdly, how would benchmarking be done? Will it be different to now? Major differences or minor differences? And in our discussion at the round table, which will be moderated by Suresh, we'll ask you to put forward your views on whether, what and how, but also explain why you think that way. So why did the Global Benchmarking Network embark on the project looking at benchmarking up until 2030? This slide shows some outcomes from benchmarking, from some research that was done. It shows the improvement in performance that organisations in different parts of the globe, improvement in the key performance indicators or KPIs that they have been able to achieve very, very quickly from benchmarking, and also being able to sustain those improvements over time. And what you notice about the improvements is that they are very, very large. Not small improvements, but large improvements. 35%, 50%, not 5%. And those improvements, as we've discussed today, this morning and yesterday, are because you learn innovation by looking outside to different industries. You have different mindsets introduced to you. And you're able to apply those innovations to undertake rapid and large improvements which you can sustain over time. These next few slides just show other examples of improvements that have been obtained from benchmarking. In this case, an insurance company benchmarking with a manufacturer. Costs reduced between 30 and 50%. Productivity improved 300%. That is a massive improvement in productivity for a train maintenance company, a railway maintenance. Learning from a camera company. So why doesn't everybody do benchmarking? If such massive and large innovations can be made through benchmarking, why is not benchmarking done by everybody? From our experience at the Global Benchmarking Network, benchmarking is just done by organisations above the waterline. And we all know that an iceberg has most of its mass below the waterline. So below the waterline is the majority of organisations in the world who are not doing benchmarking. Maybe they're not aware. But when they are aware, we find that often they're afraid. What are they afraid of? When they make such large and massive changes and improvements to their results, what are they afraid of? They're afraid someone might steal their trade secrets. Or they may be ignorant of the value of benchmarking. Or maybe they don't know what they don't know. And when organisations undertake benchmarking, one of the results they get is they get to understand what they did not know that they needed to know. Because they're looking for completely different ideas from completely different industries. Some recent research by the Global Benchmarking Network on improvement tools that are currently used and will be used in the future indicated from a sample of over 400 organisations across the globe that benchmarking is the most frequently used improvement tool of the future. But there are challenges. Firstly, we need to lower the waterline and get the organisations who are below the waterline, part of the mass of the iceberg, being not afraid of doing benchmarking and understanding the benefits and how to do benchmarking. So they need to understand how to do benchmarking well and properly resource benchmarking. This is part of the reason that the Global Benchmarking Network has the regular benchmarking roadshows to create awareness about benchmarking and over a 2-day intensive workshop allow people to understand how to do benchmarking well. Another challenge is how do we find benchmarking partners in different industries? How do we find the organisations that have the best practices for us? And then another challenge is making sure that we understand and realise the benefits that we set out to achieve from benchmarking. One of the key gaps in that regard is that around half of the benchmarking projects are done well by the benchmarking team. They make very good and excellent recommendations to the senior leaders of an organisation with a business case showing the massive improvements that can be made, but the results are not implemented, so that the benefits are not realised for the organisation. This is a challenge for the leaders of the organisation to actually implement the improvements. So far, summary, benchmarking produces very, very large improvements which can be sustained over time when it's done well.